This is an update to a video that I did some 5 years ago, where I tested live streaming with the original DJI goggles. I'll put a link to that video in the description. Since then, I've upgraded to the DJI O4 system with the Goggles 3, and I want to get some live streaming working from these goggles and this new better camera as well. Fortunately, the Goggles 3 has the wireless live view, so as can be seen in this schematic here, you can essentially stream over Wi-Fi between the goggles to an iPad and then connect an iPad, one that has a USB-C port, to a docking station which has the HDMI out. So we need the DJI Fly app in order to do this. So setting this up essentially means downloading that app and then connecting the goggles to the app by enabling live view in the goggle menu. This will essentially enable a Wi-Fi access point in the goggles, and that will then show up on the iPad, and it takes a while, and then it will ask if I want to join this access point. So I click the join button, and then it takes a bit more time for it to connect. But once it connects, it essentially jumps right into the live view. Have no drone connected here, hence the live view is black. But we connect a drone, we wait a few seconds, and we should have the picture. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, this all works. Looking very good. Okay, let's go do some live streaming with this setup. So the first day at the event, I'm connected to the production van as one of many cameras, some of which are being remote controlled, as you can see here. So I'm essentially going to fly and follow the people coming into the goal. So here we have a person coming into the goal. You can see the drone in the background, and yeah, this is really choppy and blocky. That's quite odd. Can't really be because of the settings. Oh, it looks to work better if I fly further away. That's even weirder. Oh no, never mind. It's blocky here as well. And I flew up to the top of the hill, and yeah, it got really bad. So this really doesn't work at all for some reason. Must be some kind of interference, perhaps? Yeah, this looks like just still images, as you can see in the lower right hand side there, which is an insert from the actual live stream that went out on YouTube. Really blocky or choppy, or both. This may be because I'm standing really close to the big screen. Maybe there's some kind of interference from the screen. I'm only like 2 meters away from the iPad, but I'm way closer to the screen, so it's bound to be some kind of interference. So yeah, back to the drawing board, I guess. Testing this the next day back at home, essentially sitting inside around 1.5 meters from the iPad, flying around my house and filming both the iPad and the TV here. And as you can see, yeah, it's not choppy at all, it's not blocky at all, it works perfectly. With the one downside, as you can see here, there's like a lot of black bars around the picture. This is because the iPad can't really output 16:9 video, it outputs 4:3 video. And even if you output the 16:9, the DJI Fly app seems to be hard-coded to 4:3, so you get the black bars. Well, here we are on the next day. No screen today for other reasons, so we should be good to go here, except that we're not. This looks even worse than the other day. This is like still images, and now it completely froze up on me. This, yeah, really weird. And even closer, I'm like 1.5 meters away from the iPad. On the other hand, I'm really close to the production van with all the antennas and Starlink and everything. So I made a test. I went to the X marks the spot on this map away from the production van and put the iPad about 2 meters away from me. And then I filmed the iPad with my phone to see is it going to be stuttering now as well, this far away from the van? Looks to work quite well here, at least to the beginning. But no, now it starts stuttering again. So there's some kind of Wi-Fi interference here as well. And it's not the van, and it's not the screen. It essentially has to be all the people with their phones. Everybody has, smartphones with Wi-Fi on and Bluetooth and all kinds of things. So yeah, this is not really gonna work at all. I need to find some better way of handling this. So I needed a way to connect the goggles to the iPad using the USB-C cable. The issue is that if you do that, you can't really use a USB hub or a docking station of any kind, because then the magic bit that enables the Goggles 3 to output the video through the USB-C cable doesn't come true for whatever reason, meaning that I have to use Wi-Fi out from the iPad for the actual streaming. So what I came up with was what you can see in the image here. Essentially connecting the goggles by cable to the iPad, and then having the iPad connected to the Wi-Fi access point of the Starlink that's used for the actual live streaming to YouTube, and then sending the stream up to the Starlink satellite and then down to the YouTube studio and live streaming it out. And then the production van would pick that up and play it. So what I had to do is just configure my YouTube live streaming URL on the RTMP address in the DJI Fly app, and then we were go. This works fairly well. The quality is of course a little bit worse since this is being now re-encoded and restreamed twice. The issue in this case is that the delay is just way too much. We're talking about at least a 30-second delay. So that's not really anything you can use for live streaming when mixing with other cameras that have sub-second delays. So I mostly ended up doing some scenery shots for the rest of the day here, because I couldn't really film the athletes with all of this delay. So I had to make sure that everything was being wired, no wireless connections anywhere that were prone to interference. This meant going back to a similar solution as 5 years ago, essentially using a Raspberry Pi, running CosmoStreamer this time, to be able to have the USB-C video out from the goggles into Raspberry Pi and then have a wired HDMI out from the same Raspberry Pi. No wireless except the DJI image transmission. CosmoStreamer can be purchased as a ready kit. I would suggest you buy the version with the display if you want to buy a pre-made one. I had my Raspberry Pi from the previous project with the OG DJI Goggles and the OG Air unit from back in the day. The instructions are all available on the webpage. I picked the one for the Goggles 3, naturally. Just double check that this supports both the entry goggles as well as the Goggles 3 and the O4 Air Unit and the O4 Air Unit Pro on the Raspberry Pi 4B, the exact one that I have. It doesn't really work with other models. The only change I had to do is that I had to wire up the power a bit differently. I couldn't power the Pi through the USB-C cable anymore, since I wanted the USB-C to USB-C cable between the goggles and the Raspberry Pi. In any case, all that you then have to do is to plug the cable in between the Pi and the goggles, and no more wireless live streaming. You can actually use a standard USB-C to C cable when you have the Goggles 3 or the N3. The older goggles, the Goggles 2, need a special cable. And there's also possibilities to get the original V1 and V2 goggles to work with this CosmoStreamer. Not that I really needed that anymore. The upside here is that you can actually choose the 50 frames per second output mode. In any case, I downloaded the firmware and the SD card, flashed that into an empty SD card that I had lying around, downloaded the Windows application, and then booted up the Raspberry Pi by connecting it to a power bank and connected to the Wi-Fi. Then started the CosmoStreamer application on my PC, and it immediately found my device. And then I had to connect the goggles. And once I connected the goggles and the drone, I got the picture working straight away. As you can see, no more black bars. The full widescreen image with all the stats as well. Bitrate of the video. You can even configure the camera settings of the drone. On the left hand side you have a menu. You can jump into the settings where you can see that I have purchased a license for the Goggles 3. This is a paid software. The license alone is $150 US, but it does have a lot of additional features that I unfortunately wouldn't be using at this time, but you can connect secondary webcams, you can configure your own splash screens, your own logo in the top corner, you can put background videos when you don't have any camera connected or any drone connected, you can have background audio playing while you're streaming. You can also connect through Ethernet, configure the Wi-Fi access point. I just have it at the default here since I literally just connected for the very first time. In terms of the display, I didn't really touch any of these settings. These were all set up as this per default. I did, however, choose on purpose the 50 frames per second HDMI mode, which is a fairly non-standard mode. This because we wanted to use 25 frames per second to the big screen and for the live streaming. Unfortunately, the YouTube live stream was mistakenly put at 30 frames per second, so the live stream is a little bit choppy since we're actually streaming 25 frames per second as 30, but the picture on the big screen was excellent. You also have these additional things like voice control. You can restream the video, essentially transcoding the video and then restreaming it to, for example, YouTube through RTSP or through various other forms of direct UDP streaming or SRT. A lot of options to choose from here. And then you can record the video through the local SD card or to a USB memory stick of some sort. I did not use this either because this would essentially be similar to recording your DVR on the goggles. And since I'm using the O4 Pro that has a SD card slot in it and records the full 4K video, I really don't have any use for this recording feature. But there may be perhaps other uses with other cameras. And then you have these other kind of features with, remote controls, remote control out, servos, different kinds of camera controls, gimbals, seemingly needs a separate license for that. There are a lot more licenses as well. I only purchased the one for the Goggles 3, but you can buy all kinds of licenses for DJI Osmo cameras and Pocket and various other DJI drones. There's also a web UI that opens directly on the IP address of the CosmoStreamer on the Wi-Fi access point that it has. It seems to have all of the same menus and most of the same features as the native Windows application. So this could be quite good if you want to configure something on the fly, maybe with your phone, or maybe if you're not a Windows user. The web UI looks a little bit clunkier and not as polished, but seems to have all of the features that you would need. Okay then, the third and final day. Here you can actually see that I'm standing right next to the production van and the antennas and the TV, and no interference at all. Everything is working perfectly. This third day also had a chase start, so I was able to chase the athletes out of the arena when they were starting, as well as when they were coming back to the finish from the other side of the field. This is one of the better chase scenes. This is the girls 16-year class, and these two athletes here are sprinting for the overall win. So let's look at this and listen to the speaker.
Elikkä tytöt 16 Emilia Mitz Maalahdesta ja Ines Sved Närpiöstä tulossa tuolla viimeisessä mutkassa. Nyt on niin paljon väkeä, että mä en näe täältä mitään. Mutta 62 taitaa olla edellä 62.
I must say this was a really nice shot here.
Det är så mycket som Ines Sved som kniper segern där. Ines Sved siis voittaja, Emilia Mitz blir tvåa, kakkonen. Och det var väl kvällens första ordentliga slutspurtstrid.
Later, when we had the prize giving ceremony, I actually used the DJI 4 Pro drone in low power mode as a handycam of sorts, because we didn't have any other such camera, and the only fixed camera we had could only show the back of the athletes when they were accepting their prizes. So you can see me there on the left hand side holding the drone and essentially filming using the drone. Worked quite well. The image is a bit softer than the real camera, and of course the low power mode makes the frame rate be around 15-20 FPS something, so the picture is a bit choppy, but yeah, very usable.
Okej, då är vi live även på streamen, och då får jag önska alla också på nätet, YouTube, välkomna till Solv. Nu är det FSOM.
About 1 week later, we also filmed another 3-day orienteering event. This time everything was tested and dialed in from the week before, so we got some really cool live shots from the drone. There's a whole lot of more cameras, including a chase camera from a GoPro and a gimbal, paired with a backpack housing batteries and a 5G cell phone connection for streaming images back to the production van. Speaking of the production van, here's a full list of all the cameras and all the other gear that was used, and everything bolted into the back of the Volkswagen van that was being used as a mobile production studio.
Okej, nu kikar vi in här med Klas-Göran och Ossian. Hur är läget i teknikbussen?
Nå, jäktigt som vanligt förstås. Man tycker man har mycket tid på sig att komma hit en 5-6 timmar på förhand, och så ser det bra ut från början och så börjar tiden rusa allt mer och mer. Men någorlunda bra går det kanske faktiskt.
Yes, och nu ska vi börja så småningom rikta in oss på start, så vi ska låta killarna jobba här i lugn och ro. Ni får ta över, varsågoda.
The chase camera following the runners gave some really cool shots from the course. You just have to remember to put the camera in the hands of a good runner, since they need to be able to keep up with all the athletes. Lucky for us, we had just such a person, so no trouble. In addition to the running camera, there was also a fixed camera at the finish line and a remote control camera at the start, as well as another remote control camera at a strategic center point where all the courses passed by. We also had some overlays showing the time and the name of the runners. All in all, this was a pretty high-class production, considering that we're all just amateurs, hobbyists, and volunteers here anyway. Speaking of, it's pretty insane actually that you can do something like this. Just looking at the picture right here, this would have been considered pure science fiction only some 30 years ago, and would have actually required huge professional budgets only some 10 to 15 years ago. And now basically anyone can do this. If you're interested in watching the actual live streams, I'll link those down in the video description. I also made 3 supercuts from all the FPV footage that I took that wasn't used in the live streams, so please go check those out as well.